I'm Tarot Oracle, and this is a continuation of the complete Lenormand Course. Now today we're doing number 7, which is the snake. The snake is ruled by Mars and Uranus, which is the aggression combined with unpredictability. So it also has two signs, both water elements, Cancer and Scorpio, and obviously the month is going to be July. So the snake, as you probably guessed, indicates loss, misfortune, adversity. Basically, it's not a good thing to have in a reading, as well as it does modify people and other cards with traits like betrayal, deception, envy, and things like this. So luckily, the snake is not a huge problem that's immovable, like, for example, the mountain. It is something, however, that you'd like to keep far away from your querent. So if you have your querent's card here, for example, the significator, you definitely don't want the snake like right next to them, and things like this. So the snake being far away from important cards is always a good thing. Most books agree that the snake next to the tree, which is considered your health, more or less, is a bad thing, but one book said it's a good thing. So I'm going to assume it's probably a bad thing, definitely something you need to judge on the fly and determine if that's going to be bad or not. Now, luckily, this deceit, defamation, cheating, betrayal thing that the snake has going on is a short movement thing. In other words, a snake moves along, it'll kind of slither away. So it's not something that's permanently there, it's not something that's just really dangerous, but it is something to definitely watch out for. So there are some other readings and there are some other books that say that the snake does have positive attributes if you'd like to lean it that way in certain readings. For example, there's one modified card with a snake where it's shedding its skin, indicating a rebirth or a regeneration towards something better. Maybe, sort of like Tarot's death card, right? You have a rebirth or a restart of certain traits. But overall, the snake is something that you want to watch out for and definitely catch it early and see if it can, you can minimize the damage from what it represents. It can also represent movement in a sort of sense, like, for example, if you have the snake, maybe you have a toxic roommate that's moving out. That could be represented by the slithering of the snake as they move. Maybe you're in a bad relationship and you want to get out. This could indicate sort of an escape, maybe if the snake is headed this way. And you can look at directionality as well. If the snake's looking left or right, to sort of indicate the direction that it may be going. It's definitely card interactions, something to look out for. So that is the snake. The 8th card is the Coffin, and as you would expect from the Coffin, this means loss. Could be major financial loss, it could be loss of a relationship, it's some type of loss or transformation. Think of it similar to the Death card in Tarot. You have either a loss, a big loss, or some type of move from one state that you're in to another. Now, the ruler of the Coffin is Pluto, which is obviously transformation. And the astrological sign is Leo, which is very upfront and showy. But it's something to watch out for, that if you have this in a reading, this sort of a stopping point. It's where some type of big change is going to occur, some type of loss is going to occur, definitely pointing to an ending. So if maybe you have a reading to where you have the writer bringing a message of transformation or bringing a message of change or loss, but at the end of that it will be better and it's going to be a better forecast as well. Or you could have a trip that you're going on that the trip could get canceled. We could have a loss of a trip, or the trip is not going anywhere type thing as well. Now you could have something to where you have a house that you were living in and you sold it, so you have a transformation between one space where you're living, you're sort of losing that space, losing that comfort to where you were, and now you're moving into some unknown territory. Maybe we have the move card over here, the ship. So watch for this as big transformation. It could be, again, financial loss, it could be sickness, it definitely means something is happening, something is occurring at this point within the reading. And the ninth card, represented by the Queen of Hearts, of course, would be the bouquet. So the bouquet represents happiness. It represents a nice surprise, maybe, a gift, success, or victory. So if you're looking for that job, maybe this indicates a good possibility of getting it. It means some sort of a beautiful offering of affection, appreciation, gratitude, beauty, love, happiness, joy. You get the idea. It's basically good news. Now, definitely something to watch out for on this is if it's around something that's deceiving. You may have somebody or you may have a situation that looks great, but you're being deceived. Or if you have a person near here, maybe that person is the one deceiving. You definitely want to watch out for modifications on the bouquet. So there's definitely a positive, great card. Now, the ruler planet is Venus, of course, right? Beauty, Venus, love, definitely the best ruler for this. And the astrological sign is Virgo. As you know from studying astrology or any astrology, Virgo is very detail-oriented as well. So you can put some of the traits from Virgo a little bit into here. Maybe you have a little bit of detail orientation here. As well, a little bit of, watching the Virgo, watching the health, the Virgo, paying attention to every little thing type. You may want to look for that as well within the bouquet. But overall, the bouquet is very happy, positive card. If you have anybody around the bouquet, maybe you're meeting somebody and that somebody has the bouquet nearby, you're definitely going to have a very good reading, a very good interpretation of this man or woman, and it's going to be a positive outcome, or it's going to be a positive trait to instill upon somebody else that has the card nearby if you're planning to meet someone. Now, obviously, you can have, let's say if we're having a trip and we want to know how the trip will go, you can have something like the bouquet as well. So I know you're probably also thinking that I'm going to pull out well, of course. So the trip is going to go well here, the trip is going to go well here. But the modifications here, this is more of a luck or a good outcome, and this is more of a happiness, if that makes sense. So obviously luck and good outcome and happiness sort of blend together and go together well. But just watch for this means more of a happiness or an elated mood type thing. But this means sort of good fortune, things coming in. So watch for the differences here. They're subtle, but they're important, especially when you have people nearby or you have other situations and you want to modify it with these two cards. Obviously, both cards, especially this card, is going to be super positive. So anywhere that's around, let's say you're reading a health reading and you do have health, the health could be improving, for example. You have bad health now. It's sort of, let's find the snake. So it's sort of a challenge right now for the health. It does point to maybe the snake here and then your health, the tree here. This is going to give a much better outcome. It's going to be something to where you're going to get healthier and be happier as well. So if someone's going into surgery, for example, and you get this, we have the pain that you're feeling. We know that we have some suffering here. During surgery, everything's going to go fine. And then you can add also things like the scythe as well and have a cutting motion into the surgery, etc. But overall, just a positive card, and it's great to have in any reading. And the 10th card is the Scythe. This represents, obviously, cutting. A variety of different types of cutting. It could be danger, but danger that's avoidable. So if you have a querent and they're on the right side of it, in other words, it may have not happened yet. It could be danger that has not happened yet. Or here, it could be danger in the future to watch out for. But it definitely is some type of cutting. You have, obviously, surgery as well. So you'll have somebody talking about surgery. Maybe how's my surgery going to go? This could represent the surgery as well. So It's also decision making. It's rapid, quick, microsecond decision making for urgency or something that's coming that's urgent. So the position obviously is going to be important wherever it is, but again, you could have loss. Maybe it's a trip cut short, maybe it's surgery, and then you can find out how the surgery is going to go by looking on the right. It could be cutting, harvesting, clearing, quick, abrupt decisions, but it's definitely something to watch out for. Now, this is one of the few cards that has both a positive and negative possible meaning based upon what is around it. If you do have, let's say, something like this, to where you have some type of deception, and you're able to cut through the deception and have sort of a happy ending, that could happen as well. So it definitely is a cutting. Again, when we talk about having a trip, you could have a trip cut short, and then something major happens or some major turnover happens. So if someone's going on a trip, this could indicate you're going to do the trip, it's going to be cut short, or something is going to make it not be all the way, and then you're going to have a change. Maybe you have to get on some different plane, maybe a different airline or whatever. It definitely indicates something is cut short in this particular regard. If you have this, you could have a message as well. Maybe the message is cut short, or a message of possible surgery or something like that. The person is having surgery. If you do have something around it again, where you have a message of possible surgery, but you're going to have good luck within that surgery, it could be that as well. So again, if this relates to a particular person, it could be a quick-witted person, it could be someone that cuts right to the chase, no pun intended, and it definitely modifies that person as well. So based upon where it is, you could be talking about danger, you could be talking about something cut short, you could be talking about someone that's quick decision maker, quick-witted, very to the point when they talk, they don't care what you think type thing. Definitely a lot of different meanings with this card, but you can remember that it is cutting and some type of cutting. So again, positive or negative depends on what's around it. Now the ruler of the scythe is Mars, which is action-oriented. Mars is very upfront and going places. Now the astrological sign is an air element of Libra. And as you know from astrology, Libra is the balancer. It's sort of the one that wants to balance the good and the bad, which sort of matches this card because, again, based upon what's around it, this card could be danger, this card could be good. So Libra with that balancing act, definitely watch that, and you can sort of use that to gauge how to read this based upon what's around. The whip, almost every book agrees, is about arguments and opposition. And it's also very sexual as well. So if you have a relationship reading and you see the whip, look for fights, look for disagreements, look for a lot of back and forth between the two. Another main thing that every book mentions is the whip is a sexual card as well. So if you have this next to a person, for example, and that person could be very sexual, could be argumentative as well, you kind of have to look for the other cards around this one to see. But definitely watch out for the whip as not a good card. Again, it's very sexual as well, so it depends on what's around the card. So for example, if we have something like the snake somewhere around the whip, so you have an individual, maybe he's very argumentative, and then you have a negative card next to it, it could indicate a little bit maybe not as sexual to the point, but maybe someone who is deceitful, maybe someone who has some ulterior motives in mind, and they're going to use their ability to argue with you to get whatever that they were intending to get. So when it's around a person, look for one of those two things. As far as work goes, you could be strife at work. So if you could be as well, you could have strife or arguments in the home. So the home life is not as good as it used to be. You have a lot of arguments surrounding it. Again, look for cards that are around it. But overall, it's a fairly negative card other than obviously the sexual advantage. But if that's not the case, then you do look for arguments within the whip. Now, the whip is, the ruler of the whip is Mars for the sexual piece, and then Pluto for the deviance piece as well. So he has two rulers there. And the astrological sign is Scorpio, which obviously makes a lot of sense in this regard as well. So again, look for the whip being Mars and Pluto combo, and then Scorpio would be the sign. So the last card for this video is the birds. So the birds are all about communication. They're about talking, news, messages, information, maybe some phone calls, some texts, maybe you get an email, maybe you get that person on Facebook that you've been looking for will start communicating with you, etc. It's definitely a speech or communication or two people sort of talking as well. Now when you have a man or a woman card around it, if it falls like right before, for example, someone, it could indicate that they're in a relationship as well. So they're already communicating with someone else if this appears right before you see another person in the relationship. Now, the communication definitely can be modified by other things that you have as well. So you could have a communication that makes you happy. You could have a communication about a trip or some information about a trip, or you're talking to your neighbor or your friend about a trip that you're going on. So you have a cruise scheduled, you're wondering if they're going to call you. This could indicate that you got some communication from them about the trip that you're scheduled. If you're in a breakup, if you're trying to figure out if somebody's going to call you back, you could have the coffin right next to it and have the end of that communication. Or it could be over here, and you have sort of the stifling end of that communication. It could be communication cut short, or maybe you have abusive communication as well. Could be someone that is just abusive with their communication, some arguments incoming. You do get the communication with this person you used to be dating, but it's always arguments. So it could be modified to that as well. Now you have the clouds, which always introduces confusion. So you could have confusing communication as well. So it could be one of those things to where you get something, you're not really sure how to interpret it, and the clouds always muddy up right after the communication as well. So now, the ruler of the birds is obviously Mercury. This is all about communication. If you remember, Mercury was also the ruler of our first card as well, which is all about communication and messages. So Mercury rules this in the communication signs. Now the astrological sign, there's multiple. We have Sagittarius, which is the fire element, and then we have Capricorn, which is the earth element. So it's a little bit in between both the Sagittarius and the Capricorn as well. So the bird's month is obviously going to be December, the 12th month, and the card for a regular playing card is the 7 of Diamonds. So that is it for this video. We've covered 12 cards so far, and I look forward to talking to you in the remainder of the videos. Thank you so much for watching. The first video exploded. I really appreciate you watching this video, these videos, learning about Lenormand, and I'm all excited to see what all of you do with it. I want to see your readings, and if you could post it on YouTube so I can watch, that would be so fantastic. Anyway, thank you again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.